how to create an environment to learn any language. Wow, so I wanted to do this. Something was telling me, thank you, God, to do this. Again, I'm going to talk to this page on, which is on Master Any Language. Um, this was written back 2006, and the things still apply today. A lot of this comes down to one's personality, what I believe is uh, one's determination and calling in the context of this particular language. Are you picking it up and using it and being able to use it and presented with situations that you really will use it? Um, but having said all of that, all right, the first step is individually, on our own, how do we create an environment to to learn the language that we're trying to learn? It may be our native language already. We're just trying to read and write and become literate in the language. Or it may be a completely different language that we're trying to learn. And the motivations behind why we're learning it, something may be driving us to learn it for a variety of reasons. Um, but nonetheless, we need that environment or some way to, some mechanism. So I'm going to read through some of these and then talk to them. I'm not pretending to have all the answers. Do. Language is complicated. It's a lifetime journey. Always learning. Always open to learning new things. And kind of realizing that even when we think we know what we're talking about in the language, we really don't. And that, it can be some things through experience we gain confidence and understanding, and it becomes more native. All right? But just keep all of that in mind when we're talking. And I want to try to keep it as short as possible, just review through these and maybe talk through some examples and just sharing, okay? Um, Headline here: you do not need to be in the native country of a language to master the language. First of all, master the language uh, means that you basically built a foundation in the language so that you can, with confidence, move in and out of new places, old places where you knew the language, things you don't know. You can pick up a book and read through. That doesn't mean you understand everything. You can turn on the TV and listen and follow enough. That's the when it says master the language. That's the level we're at. That does not mean we're a PhD or a native speaker that's well educated. That's not this level of this. That's not what that means. All right. So let's get that set. All right. So create your own environment. Become your own native speaker. A list of techniques used in creating your own language environment. Let me read them, and then we'll go through. I think I do have examples here. Yep. So we'll go through some examples. 1. Make yourself think in the language. Then write a daily journal in the language. Listen to radio in the language. Where applicable, not everyone can hear or has a capability to listen. Maybe it's, or that language may not be a spoken language. It may be a sign language. Okay, watch TV in the language. Read easy books in the language. Talk to yourself in the language. Practice talking to others in the language. Listen to music in the language. Listen to and repeat children's songs, which are usually simpler in nature. Learn and sing songs in the language. Buy learning books and workbooks in the language, which today you can invest more, maybe lead with apps, but I still believe fundamentally that someone that's really serious about uh, internalizing this language needs a little bit more than an app. They're gonna need to have some journaling and writing and thinking. You want to be able to be a creative thinker on your own within the language. Okay, study the language, play language games, test yourself in the language. Put yourself in situations where you need to use the language. Pretend to already speak the language fluently. And the last one is have fun with the language. All this is just a short list of different things that one can do to try to create that environment. What we can do. There's no perfect way to do it, but all of this leads to one thing: is really prioritizing the knowledge that your ability and your focus to want to learn that particular language. Um, and let's go here. Make yourself think in the language is one of the first ones we had here. I'll read this paragraph and then I'll talk through what some of these points are. Make yourself think in a language. You have to teach your mind to think in the language that you want to learn. The more you force yourself, and force is a strong word, but the more you force yourself to think about things in the new language, the faster you will learn and the more you will grow. Over time, your thoughts in the new language can become like a reflex, much the same as how you've learned quickly to move your hand away from fire. So it becomes reflexive. Let me talk. I'm not going to read every point here. I'm going to give you a real example that I've found effective for me. It may not be for you, but it has been for me. So I do exercises. Usually I do almost daily exercises, like some push-ups and things. And a long time ago, I realized that, wow, every time I'm doing like a push-up, if I'm counting in the language that I'm practicing, at first it's not easy to remember. Like I'm trying to practice the numbers, and I'm not remembering all the numbers right away. So I was mixing in with, with my native language, and basically at first it's not easy. This is why this is here. The more you force yourself, I purposely did it. So for example, for speaking Korean and the numbers, or Spanish for me, and I've done this in Arabic, and I've done this enough to see that it can be effective for someone. First starting off with, like, Korean, hana, tul, set, net, tasa, yosa, yusgo. Yeah, but first not really knowing how to say it, or remembering some of them but not all of them, but doing that almost every day. And eventually it gets to the point where automatically when I get down to do the push-up, the numbers come out in Korean. That's what this means about the more you force yourself to think, right? There's some other short examples here of how you can do it. And again, depending on your own personal situation, it may be in your relationship you're in, or you're in a situation where you're speaking to people and you want to lead off with Kyahwa or something like in front of you, or like hello, or you want to present on purpose yourself to the place, the person or people you're around, just to make yourself, even if you're not fully 100% getting it, but you want to practice saying it. All right. Yeah, there was another example, like I think I wrote this somewhere, but there's an Albanian. Albanian is not my first language, definitely not, and but it's one that I started getting somewhat accustomed to. And yeah, I would go into work at that time, and one of the guys there would say hello, right? And basically, we got to the point where he knew I wanted to practice that language, and he taught me, Mirmin Jesse, uh, good Mirmin Jesse, good morning, Siesot, how are you today? And at first I couldn't remember it. Like I heard it, but then what I did was when I came back to work, I tried to say it in front of him. I really couldn't get it. Then I walked away. I forgot. The next day I came back in. I forgot again. Was messing it up. But eventually it got to the point because I kept making myself trying to say it when I say hello in the morning. Eventually it started coming out automatically. Right. Uh, and then this is my only last piece I want to say here is because a lot of this is very circumstantial. It depends on who you are, what you like to do, why you're trying to learn the language, creating the environment, how deep you are, how busy you are. Oh, that's a good point. I want to share that, and then I'll stop. So I was going to say here, write the daily journal in the language. Yeah, I have found that it's good practice to write something down in the language that you want to be able to speak. Because at some point, what I found is it doesn't feel like you're actually studying. You're just going about your day. Um, so I found that to be helpful. And in terms of, uh, oh yeah, the environment. Things like your phone, iPhone, or your Samsung phone, or whatever you have, your mobile phone or your computer, and different softwares you're using, or your preferences on YouTube or different applications. Maybe consider changing those into the language that you're targeting. Consider downloading the keyboards in the language you're targeting. And depending on the level you're at in the language, consider learning new things through that language. Okay? Uh, this here says, do not strive for perfection in the language at any time. No one's perfect. Um, just do what you can. It's just that you can try to create the environment. All of this is in preparation for when you really need to have um, something in the language so you can express yourself when you're with the people who are really using the language that you're trying to learn. All right? Talk to you later. Bye bye.